This is Conversations with Women in Sales, an award-winning podcast created by Barbara Giamanco, who hosted the first 67 episodes. Listen to interviews with amazing women about their journeys in their sales careers, often discussing sales leadership tips, ideas, and strategies. We aim to inspire women to consider a sales career and for some women to grow into sales leadership. Men, we appreciate your allyship. And now, your host, Lori Richardson.
I'm here today with Nancy Calabrese. Nancy is CEO and founder of One of a Kind Sales, and she has been helping companies grow revenues through the top of the funnel, prospecting for a long time. And I'm so excited to have you here today, Nancy, to help give us some tips and ideas.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for having me. This is a topic I love talking about.
Yeah. And I'm just curious, you have such a focus in terms of what you do. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your company and why you started it and really how you help people?
Sure. One of our taglines, just so you know, One of a Kind Sales, we provide lead generation, appointment setting services, and sales training and coaching. And our tagline is, we love cold calling so that our clients don't have to do it. We work primarily in the B2B world, and we work with also like business owners that are just frustrated. They don't have enough qualified leads in their pipeline. Or typically what happens, anyone that's in a sales function will do anything but pick up the phone. It's so painful for them. I liken it to having a wisdom tooth taken out with a Novocaine. They'll avoid it at all costs. And so what we do is we become their inside sales engine. And we do from setup to developing the scripting to developing the lead lists. And then we execute a campaign that comes to life over a period of time. Every campaign has a different ramp phase. For example, insurance, it's a longer ramp up time because insurance is highly saturated. And for every call we make, they're getting 40 other calls. And again, in insurance, there's the renewal date. But it does work. And in other industries, we just knock it out of the park right away. Either the offer is just so unique, there's a need in the marketplace. And one other factor, again, I'm blessed. I have an amazing team, but we study sales each and every week. We happen to be Sandler sales trained. So all of my people, including my admins, participate in it because really, when you think about prospecting, it's just having a conversation with a stranger.
Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah, it's so simple, right?
Yeah. You asked how I got into it.
Yeah.
In my prior life, I got into inside sales. I'm not going to mention how many decades ago, but I
12
did.
years ago.
Yeah, and I was a headhunter. And I was a headhunter during the days where they didn't have fax machines, they didn't have computer, and it was all, and there was no Zoom. It was all over the phone. And I built a company up, a practice. And I want to say in 2008 or 9, one of our clients did a lot of work with them, asked us to create an inside sales department for them. And I had no experience in it. But we did it. We had 2.5 people calling, and we set 300 appointments in the first year. Think about, yeah.
Wow.
And after that program was over, I just decided this is really a need in the marketplace. And so we were able to take all of our consultative skills from the recruiting world into what we do now. And we love it.
But things have changed, haven't they, in the last couple of years, the last few years? People are getting spammed with bad messaging on all sorts, from emails to LinkedIn, and people are harder to reach by phone. Do you get frustrated or, because this is your deal. This is,
Yeah. Yeah. Look, we'd love to speak to everyone we dial, but that's not the reality. And we understand that. My callers, I guess it would be frustrating for them because I'm not on the front line anymore, but it does work. Outbound prospecting is just another marketing channel, and you want to have that channel in your marketing program along with social media and email blasts and so on. And you'd be surprised. We have a system in place so that we are professionally in front of the same group of leads for a 4-week period. We drop a voice message, we drop an email, and I think they've done research, and it usually takes a C-suite to pay attention to communication, I think 8 to 12 times. So eventually, if we don't get them in the first month of calling, they get recycled for 90 days. Now, in 90 days, we're a little more familiar, right? We sound professional and we sound very non-salesy, which I think is important. Yeah, we all have challenges nowadays. How many LinkedIn invites do you get that you just want to ignore?
Yeah.
Or emails, unsolicited emails?
Yeah, funny you mentioned that because I just wrote a post about band and connections and how people miss the mark. They're so close. Like they'll come to me to want to sell me something when in fact I'm a much better referrer for them. And if I turn them down, that's it. They miss their opportunity. But if they would have just done a little research, they could have built a relationship. So it is frustrating to me sometimes. So there's a path through outbound calling, and it still works, maybe not to the extent that it did, but it still works. It's a channel and it's important.
It still works, period. It's just human conversation. And the benefit of having these conversations is you're doing something different than most people are doing. And what didn't Coco Chanel get quoted? In order to be recognizable, you must stand out or something like that. So we are doing a function that most people avoid, like the plague.
Yeah.
And that makes us stand out.
So you're kind of a secret weapon for them, right?
You got it.
That's great. So what do you tell company leaders who want quick results?
Yeah, that is a challenge. I'm really glad that you bring that up. Everybody wants a quick result. So do I. But anyone in the leadership role probably has been in a sales role. And we talk about how long it takes to get your mojo going. Now, when I placed producers as a headhunter, no matter how much experience they had, it took average 6 to 9 months for them to get their mojo going. Sure. So if a leader expects immediate results, I'll walk away from that business because they're being unrealistic, setting themselves up for failure, and also my team that works really hard getting their message out there.
Yeah. And I've seen this with a lot of startups. So I don't work with startups, so I don't know if you do, but yeah, often the missing piece too is the actual messaging of what they do, their value prop. And sometimes people think you just hire salespeople and they can come in and sell things for you, but without it worked out in terms of what the offer is and what the value is and how they're different, they're not going to be successful.
I totally agree. So in our methodology, what we do when we onboard a new customer is we get them to provide us with 5 stories, customer success story. And each one has a different, we call it pain point. What was the issue that brought them to you to resolve? And we use those pain points in the messaging. So for instance, if we're getting in front of a key executive, like we know deliberately that they are more than likely are going through 1, 2, or 3 pains. And then when we state it, our hook line is, gee, Lori, I don't want to pretend to know your business, but is any of this relevant and worth a conversation? And then we shut up. We listen. We empathize. We become actors, really, because we have to match their communication style. Right. And we want them to talk about the pain to get them emotional. and we get enough surface pay that we pivot and go to schedule the appointment.
Interesting. That's great.
Yeah.
How do you feel about all the new tools that are coming in utilizing artificial intelligence? I know they don't take the place of a person, but they are
They're
coming.
up there.
Yeah, and they're more for sales too. They're more and more that I'm seeing.
Yeah, the artificial intelligence, when I think of that, I'm just thinking out loud. We just, for instance, engage with a new data provider, and they're providing us with direct dial numbers, mobile numbers, and email addresses. That's really, I guess, grown significantly, and it has helped us because in order to make cold calling effective, you have to have quality leads. If your sales agents are spending most of their time scrubbing the list, that's a total waste of time. And what I'm trying to think of other artificial intelligence. Give me an example.
Well, there's sales training coming out now that is using bots where someone can practice their pitch and get feedback and things. A lot of things where it's not going to take the place of what you already do. I don't believe if there's coaching and if someone's manager isn't coaching them, it's probably
Right.
better than not getting coaching, getting something as long
Yeah.
as long as the messaging and everything is correct. I think it goes back to the correct value proposition and knowing the messaging. And that's where we'll still be able to work with customers in the future, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't see bots taking that over.
All about training. I've always been a student of the sales process. I don't care how experienced you are, everyone benefits from training. And in my weekly training, I'm surrounded by a lot of young people newer to sales. I walk away with a nugget each and every time. You know, whether or not you subscribe to Sandler or other training programs, I think it's so important. I think every leader should make that investment in his or her team.
Yeah.
Way of keeping your people happy also.
Yeah. And you've been a successful woman in a male majority world. Would you agree? Most of the industries are in sales are male majority. Do you have any tips for other women who may be considering sales or in sales, but not sure that they're going to stay in it?
There's the old adage, women salespeople have greater success than male counterparts just because they're a woman. Okay. And you can read into that any way you want. However, when I got into business, I didn't worry about who my counterparts were. I just really zoned in on what can I do? How do I learn to do this better than anyone else? And Lori, I really don't think about competition at all. I just focus on how we can improve what we do. So I would say to all the women listening to this, just trusting in who you are, take your talents and let the world know about them. It's mindset. Mark Hunter always talks about mindset. It really is. You're as good as your mindset is.
What do you think about the fact that women are underrepresented, though, in almost every level, in most every industry in sales? I wonder why that keeps perpetuating.
Pisses me off.
Yeah.
And we're still in a male-dominated world.
Yeah.
So I choose to look elsewhere than constantly let myself get frustrated with the way the world is. That's just the reality.
The reasons for this podcast is that women can see other successful women who have done very well in our industry and not just go by what they might have heard about sales, about a stereotypical approach to sales. That women have been doing amazing things in sales for many years, and we take a different approach. We're not an aggressive killer of, I don't know, all the war words, busters and quota killers and all those things. We can take a different approach and use empathy, like you were talking about, and communication, listening skills, and do very well in this industry.
Yeah, but there are some killer salespeople out there that are women.
Yeah. I agree. We just don't tend to use the war words as much. I'm very competitive. but I wanted to compete with myself. I didn't really care to be number one on the leaderboard, but I wanted to be in the top 10.
Yeah.
I didn't
I
have to
guess
be
that
number
would
one.
describe me too. Yeah, I'm very competitive with myself in everything that I do. Like I play Wordle with my uncle, who's a genius, and everything going back. Oh, he won, I won, he won, I won. But yeah, I just to be challenged.
Yeah,
Don't like to be bored.
that's great.
Yeah, I'm never bored. Are you?
Never bored. Not at all. No. And just real quickly before we're done, I wanted to mention that you have a pod and you have a book, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. My podcast is Conversational Selling, where I get to interview sales executives and business executives. And all we talk about is them and what they bring to the table. I love doing it. It has really increased my center of influence. And interesting, I started it right as COVID hit because I had to figure out what am I going to do differently to keep the company afloat. We keep it to the 10 talk around 18 minutes. And it's wonderful. My book, The Inside Sales Solution, is how to set up your own inside sales team. And we're going to next year have an online course.
Okay.
We're wrapping it up. Yeah. And so for people that may read the book, but didn't implement it, we're going to do online modules. So I'm very excited about that. Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. And Nancy, it's been so great to have you here. It's Nancy Calabrese. She's CEO founder of One of a Kind Sales. And we'll look for that online course. And thank you so much for joining us today.
I loved it, Lori. You're the best.
Thank you.
Big shout out to our official sponsor, Reprise, the leading full funnel, product led growth platform. With Reprise, your sales team creates, presents, and shares product demos perfectly customized for each step of your sales motion. Go to getreprise.com/womenInSales to try for free today.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Conversations with Women in Sales. You can find all of our episodes at womensalespros.com/podcast. Help us spread the word and let's change the face of B2B sales.